Law stepped over the body of Dr. Noonan's song. Law stole the emotion chip from Dr. Noonan's song. Law hid the emotion chip made by Dr. Noonan's song in the stomach or, possible, the bowels. Put this somewhere, away and hidden, and float it out into the sea. What use is the microchip? Without it, nothing is lacking, but still. Now as it floats away on the inner sea, I'm worried I made a mistake. I came down here to the inner sea of the stomach or bowel to get rid of this, and now I want it back. The sea is hot fermentation, like sweet sour wheat porridge. It's warm around our ankles as we start out reaching for the floating silicon and copper. Happily, still upright on its little float of polystyrene packaging. Under my feet, the ground is soft below the liquid, but only as soft as the land, with bulging nodes of polyps and grassy banks and small enzymes running and making little nests. The ground under the liquid is just as soft, but has little hexagonal ridges in it which are swollen like saturated human digit tips or edges of suckers. We keep walking out after the little tiny microchip as it drifts just ahead. If you're careful, you can walk with the heel of each foot sitting neatly in each hexagon ridge of the floor. But then, standing on something crystalline, which crunches with satisfactory but unexpected fulfillingness, we are thrown off balance in the liquid, which is now above all knees, and we stagger. A bow wave and ripples from splashed hands scoosh the microchip on its little boat further out of reach. Reaching to go further with a 1 foot, you realize the ground slope increases huggle. And without realizing a decision could be made, we're swimming. Tunic soaked and sweet acid liquid like thin gel that clings and globs. Swimming is slow and satisfying, stretching aches out of muscles we've forgotten all about. Face down, you open your eyes against the soft sting and in black and purple light see slivers of orange ripple past. Small wheels of sharp milky blue, a bit like snowflakes, roll by. There are shapes that look like commas, inky black outlined in white and full of snakes and tiny black rings which suddenly explode into a radiation of dots before being caught by currents. Pulling our head back to draw breath is almost an afterthought. I adopt a butterfly stroke. To avoid pushing the floating raft and pricked into emotion chip by Dr. Noonan's song. Further ahead. I adopt a butterfly stroke to avoid pushing the floating raft and the pricked into emotion chip by Dr. Noonan's song. Further ahead. It's almost in reach. The viscosity of the inland sea is not enough to stop it bobbing out of reach at any attempt. Our eyes feel fresh as the sea fluid drips from them and round the edges. Light salt trails left after on our cheeks, a bit in the mouth, but trying not to think about it. The weight of resistance from the thick sea has changed. The feel from comfortable in muscles to a starting ache. So I roll over, slowly as not to cause a thick splash and along on our back. It's possible that as the chip's no longer within our field of vision, this caused problems. But you're sure that we will spot it as we overtake, and if I swim only by kicking the feet, then there's less movement in the water to push the little boat out of reach. Also, this is much more comfortable. Though the air is sharp and while the ceiling is too high to see, there are drifts of vapour like clouds up above that move about very slowly and prove a pleasant distraction from the A-sting in sinus and eyes and the soft palate. After a while, whether by the calming swirl of vapour, of the stimulating rhythm of the swimming stroke. Even this acid tang to a soft tissue ceases. Even this acid tang to the soft tissue ceases to be so tiresome. Breathing in and out, the sting is almost gone. Drawing in just feels warm, like the warmness of liquid we are floating in but inside us. Exhaling feels refreshing and cool. Exhaling feels refreshing and cool. In and out, warm and cool, warm and cool. We wonder whether it's familiarity, the duration, or whether we have adapted in some other way to the environment. You've started twisting wrists in little tight circular motions to add a little more propulsion and direction to our swim. Still watching the clouds drift above the legs and wrists and lungs all relax into a complicated rhythm together, but in the middle of all this, the breathing holds a steady piston cycle in and out, watching the clouds pull tight and drift away in and out. The swim has gone past the point. The swim has gone past the point where we could say how long since leaving the shore, and the dancing proteins and enzymes pumping materials in chain. You imagine them in synchronization. The same rhythm of in and out. A glob of something is devoured, and next stroke another material discharged into the mouth of another organism in and out. In your mind, this line transmits into a two-dimensional polygon, a series of concentric hexagons with an organism in each corner. On each breath, the creatures excrete a material from their corners to be caught by those in the larger shape that envelops it. Breathing in and out, you can almost see this image in the clouds above. The system grows larger and larger, more sites, more organisms. The organisms are no longer uniform but all different, and the material they consume and dedicate transforms heterogeneously at each breath. There no longer seems to be a simple trajectory. There no longer seems to be a simple trajectory between lines of organizations, but now the excretions of R are devoured by... There no longer seems to be a simple trajectory between lines of organizations, but now the excretions of R are devoured by next nearest 3. Most confusingly, these lines of flight no longer radiate out, but seem to go out in other directions. Sometimes you can make out a small spiral or eddy, or trace a large arc across many points before it heads past its earlier origins at a new angle. Sometimes you can make out a small spiral or eddy, or trace a large arc across many points before its head past its earlier origins at a new angle. However, through all this, the pulse of movement stills the rhythm of our breathing in and out. Muscles no longer feel tired, and the resistance of the liquid is not noticeable. The twists of the wrists and the kicks of the feet roll into each other. You imagine you must have warmed to the same temperature of the sea as you can no longer feel it. You imagine you must have warmed to the same temperature of the sea as you can no longer feel it. After some time, it is hard to separate the different parts of us from the pump of the organisms. It's impossible to tell any of it apart. It's almost a frightening shock when suddenly 4 sets of hands are gripping us. 2 pairs of hands on each side of the body, and we are being lifted out of the water. The liquid from the inland sea splashed as the hands dipped into the water to grip us. The liquid from the inland sea splashed as the hands dipped into the water to grip us. The air felt hard and dry as we pulled from it, still facing up at the ceiling just beyond view. Lifted up into the air above the shallows like an injured seal by 4 steady hands on each side.